Hey everybody, welcome to Always Bored Never Boring. Recently I had the great honour and pleasure to receive early review copies of 2 new troupe boxes for the wonderful whimsical tabletop skirmish game Moonstone by Goblin King Games. Both sets contain Treefolk and are available to pre-order right now on the Moonstone website, which I will link to in the video description below, and these sets have a retail release date of the 11th of September 2023. I've already reviewed the sets, but today I wanted to get some paint on some of the Treefolk using a really quick and easy paint scheme that you can adapt slightly to paint not only Gump, but also Root and Snag from the Wyrdwood troupe. So here is the mighty Gump, and as you can see I have spray undercoated him using Army Painter Matte Black just to give us a solid black base to work from. And we are going for quick and simple here, so I am going to be relying pretty heavily on washes and dry brushes to get Gump table ready as soon as possible. To start, I am going to do a heavy overbrush with a light brown. In this case, I'm using Steel Legion Drab. And I'm using a decent sized brush. I've loaded it with paint, and then I've wiped some of that paint back off on kitchen paper. And I'm going to whip the bristles all over the miniature, leaving paint on the most raised details. It's pretty much a dry brush, but you are leaving more paint on the miniature while keeping all the recesses untouched. Once that's dry, I'm switching to a light grey, Administratum grey in this case. And now I'm going to do a dry brush, and this is just going to lighten up the whole miniature again while keeping the recesses nice and dark. Next I'm grabbing a bone colour. I'm using Army Painter Skeleton Bone, and I'm going to thin it down with Lamian Medium to a really heavy glaze. Then I'm going to apply this on the raised areas, gradually building up the colour. You can go as far as you want with this, and you can be patchy and blotchy. It doesn't matter if it runs into the recesses a bit. My hope here is to make this look like something natural, so it can be a little bit sketchy, a little bit messy. That's fine. And keeping with that same approach, we are then going to splash on some washes. For this I'm using Agrax Earthshade, Athonian Camo Shade and Seraphim Sepia. I'm going to apply the Agrax haphazardly for tonal variances in the wood, and there really is no rhyme or reason to this, I'm just splodging. And then I'm going to do exactly the same thing with the Seraphim Sepia. I will do a bit of splodging with the Camo Shade, but the main thing for that is to colour in all of the leaves and the vines. Next I'm going to use Coelia Green Shade, which is another wash, and I'm going to apply this to the vines around the waist, again just to keep getting variations in the tones and colours on the miniature. Now that I'm happy that I've added enough colour variety to the body, I'm going to use some Army Painter Dark Tone, and I'm going to paint this into the deepest recesses, just to help all the details pop a bit more. This probably isn't an essential step if you're feeling lazy, but as this is such a quick paint job anyway, I can spare the extra 5 minutes. And at this stage, if you are painting Root from the Wyrdwood troupe box, or painting some swampland woods for example, you could probably leave it at that. It's a nice dark grungy colour scheme. But we want to brighten Gump up a bit, so I'm going to do a targeted dry brush with Army Painter Skeleton Bone. This is just going to go on the raised parts of the bark, and I'm not going to go too heavy with this. I'm then switching to Moot Green to continue dry brushing, and I'm applying this to any leaves and vines. I'm targeting the dry brush, but if I overshoot a bit, it doesn't matter. That's all just going to add to that natural coloration that I'm going for. And for even more colour variation, I'm going to switch to Auroch Flesh, and I'm going to dry brush the vines around the waist. Again, not being too fussy, I'm just getting the colour on. Finally, I'm going to switch to Ogre in Camo, and I'm going to dry brush that vine loincloth one final time. I just want to get lots of tones and some bright colours in there. Next I'm going to thin down some Pallid Witch Flesh with Lamian Medium, and I'm going to apply this to the symbol etched in Gump's torso. I will also take this opportunity to put a dot in each of his eye sockets to give him a glimmer of intelligence. Finally we're going to add the magic, and for that I'm using Hexwraith Flame. If you want to, you could probably use Nurgle's Rot for this, or maybe even the Speed Paint Malignant Green, and I'm going to paint that over the Pallid Witch Flesh. I don't need to be too careful here, and any overspills will hopefully just look like a little glow from the green. At this point, with the exception of the base, you can call it done. However, if you are painting a birch or something like a dead tree, I'm thinking Snag from the Wyrdwood box, you can go an extra couple of layers with the dry brushing. Add a brighter bone colour like Screaming Skull, and then do a Pallid Witch Flesh dry brush on the most raised flaky bits. And that will just make the whole miniature look paler and more dead. So really, with this paint scheme, depending on when you stop, you can pretty much do all 3 of the Treefolk from the latest Moonstone releases. For the base, I'm going to use Sterling Mud and then an Agrax Wash and Abaddon Black around the rim. After varnishing the miniature, I can then add any other details like flock, leaves, grass, little flowers, or anything else like that. And that really is just about it, a really quick and easy way to get Treefolk, or just trees I guess, on the tabletop. Of course, there are hundreds of ways you could approach these miniatures, and you could use speed paints or contrasts as well, but I'm pretty pleased with this for getting them painted quickly. And that is it from me for now. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked the video, please consider pressing the like button. If you really like the video, please consider subscribing if you don't already do so, and hopefully, I'll see you all again very soon. Bye bye everyone, bye bye.